Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of June 16th. Well, here we are, Father's Day weekend already. The summer's just screaming by. Did want to take a second to just wish all the dads out there a happy birthday. And, if you're looking for a gift for dad, I made a post about this last night, but we got, racks and walls are full of stuff here. Pick up a gift for dad. Also, we got gift cards. Make a great gift for him. Can come in and pick something out for himself. But anyway, yeah, happy Father's Day to all the dads. Did want to also announce that we are a fish pond dealer. Fish Pond makes packs and vests and really great products for toting all your fishing stuff around. So happy to have that stuff up on the shelves. And we also have Bimbo skunks in stock. So I got a fresh shipment of these from my buddy Jeff Alt, who ties, some fantastic flies for other stuff, and whipped out some Bimbo skunks here. Got some of your traditional colors. Also, this new one's kind of cool. It's got a rainbow bead on it, and that's actually a purple body. You can't see that well in the picture here, but Bimbo skunk is a fantastic bluegill fly. So I know a lot of those folks are going to be snatching these up. Otherwise, one other thing, we had the PMTT, the Professional Muskie Tournament Trail, in town last weekend. They posted their results on their website here. It sounds like they had, kind of a challenging day on Saturday, with the biggest fish coming in at 46.5 or 45.75, I guess, I'm not sure. Anyway, it didn't come until Saturday that they started cracking 50, but they got a few fish in that 50-inch range, with the biggest being 52.75. Anyway, that's a cool event. I believe that's the winning fish there. It's just a monster of a fish. But they got a cool photo gallery up here. You can go on and check out some of the catches from the weekend. And yeah, it's a cool event. And yeah, glad to have those folks in town, and glad the event went well for them. Otherwise, on to the report. Well, the weather this last week was, up and down temperature-wise, but the rain that was predicted for the Madison area really never showed up. It skirted to the west of us, and it skirted to the east of us, and we stayed pretty dry here, which, we could really use some rain. But it does look like a beautiful weekend ahead. A bit of a warm-up coming next week, but still not a lot of rain in the forecast, so I guess we'll see how that all shakes out. The buoy on Lake Mendota out here was reading 66.6 degrees this morning, which is very satanic, and 4 degrees lower than this time last week. I heard 72 degrees, I think, earlier this week on Wabisa. So the water temps have come down. Even though some of the days have been warm here, the nights have been cool, and that's keeping those temps steady and actually coming down some. So, of course, you'll find warmer water in shallow bays and protected areas, though. Generally around the chain, it sounds like the wind we had last week is blowing much of the floating vegetation off the lakes, which is making fishing a lot more pleasant. Blue-green algae has become a lot less of a problem, as you can see here on the county's beach water quality report. Looks like only 2 beaches in the area are closed because of blue-green algae. That matches up with the reports I've been getting from folks around town. It sounds like a lot of nice clear water out there. Mendota gills are still on beds. Monona gills are on beds, but that's winding down. They're pretty much done on Wabisa and Kegonsa, but those fish should be in a great post-spawn mood, but you'll want to start looking for those fish moving out a little bit deeper. The usual redworms, spikes, and waxies have been doing well for those fish, but the bluegills have also been liking the thunderbugs we got here in the shop. Largemouth bass remain shallow, but smallmouth bass and walleye continue to move out deeper, but are showing up in good numbers on mid-lake humps now as we move into summer. Leeches have been working well for both those fish, but all the traditional artificial lures have been working well too. Catfish action up here on the north side has been tapering off, but folks are still getting fish up here. All the area rivers and streams came up a bit with some of the rain, but they're still running very low and clear for this because of the dry spell we've had up here on Cherokee. It's going to be a weedy mess up here, and basically until ice up, and then it'll still be a weedy mess, but there'll be ice on top. But the school road launch, you can put in there if you got a canoe or a kayak or a small boat and navigate pretty well around up here, get up in the channel on the other side of the weeds, and there's some good pike and bass to be had up there. Like I said, the catfish action down here to the 113 bridge is winding down, but folks are still getting some fish. Those fish will start to move back out into the main lake, and then as we cruise through the rest of the summer, you'll hear, or I'll hear about, the occasional catfish at Governor's Island, Warner Bay, or, Tenney Park. They just kind of scatter all over. Otherwise, on Lake Mendota itself, shallow water panfish action has been good, with gills still up on beds. I have been hearing though recently with this cool down, it sounds like there's some, it looks like bluegill beds, but they're abandoned. So it seems like maybe this cool water has got to push some of those fish back out. Maybe this warm up next week will really get them going. But I've heard about some, empty beds around from a few folks. So I guess we'll see how that shakes out. But the gills are out there and generally on beds. Haven't heard anything in the way of crappies lately. And the perch are still scattered. But once the weeds come up a little bit more, they'll start to congregate in pockets and on weed edges. Largemouth bass action remains good up shallow, but the smallmouth bass and walleye continue to move out deeper. Look for those fish in 15 to 20 feet of water near shoreline breaks and mid-lake humps. It sounds like the white bass are running up here in Warner Bay. I've heard some good reports. Fish being caught. You can catch those fish on just about anything, but smaller lures trolled right behind the back of the boat, sometimes right in the prop wash. Those fish will come up and smash them. They're schooled up and spawning right now, and like I said, you can use just about anything. But it sounds like chartreuse and white tend to be the best colors. Marabou jigs, twister tails. Small flicker shads, all kinds of things like that work for those fish, and that action should be good here for another week or two. Otherwise, as far as other action around the lake, I've heard about some good catches coming off of Tenney Park down here. Had some good reports above the locks up here. It's nice to see some fish finally kind of showing up there a little more consistently. A couple decent walleye in the evening. Some bluegills actually in there, and decent bass, but you never really know what you'll find up there. The fishing below the locks has been a little tough. The water's very clear and low, and not much flow or current coming through there. So not a lot happening. I have heard a couple reports of some really nice bass coming out of the Tenney Park Lagoon, and of course, if you got a kid, that's a great place to take them. Just keep busy with a bunch of little bluegills. As far as Monona goes, of course, I mentioned the muskie tournament. Those guys. Looks like they did pretty well out here. Haven't heard much personally in the way of muskie reports, but I have heard of bluegills on beds still all around the lake. That action's going to be winding down though, as they've been on beds, for a couple weeks now. Other than bluegills on beds, I do hear about some gills coming out of Monona Bay and Brittingham Park area, the tracks up here to the Monona Terrace Wall. Action's been good out there for bluegills at most times of the day. Crappie action picks up usually around dark, meaning evening or early morning. Haven't heard much out of the bays down here. Turtle Bay and Squaw Bay, Weechowuk Bay are got gills on beds down there, but haven't heard much else in that respect. All right, and so Wingara over here, I haven't heard a lot other than a couple nice bass actually, and a few smaller size muskie, but decent action. Tons of tiny bluegill again. If you want to take kids, this Vilas Park shoreline here is usually just loaded with gills that are pretty willing to bite. Down on Wabisa, it depends on who you ask if the gills are done down there. Some folks say they're still on beds and they're catching them full of spawn still. Other folks say no, they've been done for a while. So it's really, I guess, depends on who you talk to. But gills should be hanging out in the Lake Farm Park area, and the South Bay is a pretty safe bet. I'm sure there's muskies around, the rock pile down here by Christie's and Goodland is a pretty safe bet. Haven't heard much on bass, but they were doing well, last week and the week before. And walleyes out from Babcock. I've been hearing about some decent walleye action out from there, mostly trolling crawlers actually. So that's that. On Kegonsa, it sounds like the gills are done down there. Pretty much indefinitely, but the you're still going to find them out here in the Fish Camp County Park area, and really anywhere along weed edges should be good. Also been hearing about some nice walleye coming out of there, so that's kind of unusually consistent for Kegonsa. Usually you hear about these things and it's one day that they're just on fire, and then everybody from there on out gets skunked for a week. But it's been a pretty consistent bite down there. Water's crystal clear from what I hear. Down on the Rock River, I've been hearing about some decent mixed bag of fish coming out of the Indian Ford Dam, so that's a thing. Otherwise, up on Koshkonong, I guess you could say the word's kind of out on the from the AIM walleye tournament. The top guys were doing really well on crawler harnesses, and I've heard probably a half dozen reports this week of folks doing well on crawler harnesses out there. So That seems to be the kind of the go-to here. Still, areas to look at, where the river dumps in up here on the near Black Hawk Island, and that area tends to be the most productive area of the lake. But I'm sure you can find them just about anywhere out there. Over to and I also up to Jefferson. I've heard about a nice mixed bag of fish coming out of the Jefferson Dam, and some catfish up there starting to show up, some flatheads. So yeah, dams and rivers are really awesome places to just, you never really know what you'll catch. Otherwise, upstream here we got Beaver Dam Lake, still has a pretty great catfish bite going on. We got where are we here? Crystal Lake has a great yellow bass bite going on right now, and I've heard about some good crappie after dark. Otherwise, over on the river, you got the Prairie du Sac Dam. All the dams are pretty much the same now. You're gonna have a nice mixed bag of fish. Never really know what you'll find. Could find walleye, panfish, drum, sturgeon, really just anything you'll find out there. But the catfish are starting to move in there too, so I've been hearing about some decent catfish action at a lot of the dams. Up on Lake Wisconsin, the walleye action out there sounds like it's still going pretty well. Sounds like crawler harnesses are pretty effective, trolling those shallow in less than 15 feet of water. Also been hearing about crappies near Wood, panfish shallow in places like Whalen's Grade and the Fingers. So yeah, Lake Wisconsin's been fishing really well lately. I haven't heard much out of the Dells Dam, to be honest, but it's a dam, so you're going to find a lot of good fish, mixed bag of fish in there. Castle Rock Lake Dam, always a great spot. Sounds like Castle Rock Lake itself has been a little quieter, which is kind of standard, I guess, compared to Pete and Well. Sounds like some good walleye and white bass action trolling shallow up here in less than 15 feet of water. Also crappies near Wood up there, and of course the Pete and Well Dam, great spot to toss a line in and just see what comes up. Over to the Mississippi River. Sounds like the water levels continue to stabilize, and they're getting good white bass and walleye on current seams, crappie near Wood, and some bluegills too along rocky shorelines, from what I've heard. See, over to Milwaukee. Not much going on over here on the Big Lake. A lot of the fish are moved out from shore seeking that colder water. But there are I do know some folks are getting some good smallmouth in the Milwaukee River, so. That's a thing. Otherwise, I haven't heard a ton out of Green Bay. Of course, get up here into Sturgeon Bay and that. You get some great world-class smallmouth fishing up there. I'm sure they're getting some walleyes out here near Green Bay. I haven't heard a lot out of Oshkosh. There was a tournament up there, Jesus, what's going on? There was a tournament up here a couple weeks ago, and I do sell a product here called Old Salt bait. Fish attractant. You spray it on your lures, and yeah, I guess the top 5 guys in that tournament were all using the Old Salt product, so that's kind of exciting. If you've never used it, stop in the shop and give that a try. Otherwise, as far as trout go, generally around the area, dry conditions have the streams running low and clear. We could use a good rain to flush out some of the areas that are getting a little silted in. Weeds are getting taller, and I'm seeing poison parsnip blooming in many areas. Between the parsnip and nettles, it's going to become a little tricky navigating the stream banks for a while. That being said, it's not all doom and gloom, because stream temps remain cold. With these cool nights, the stream temps have a good chance to come down, and trout are still hungry. Blue-winged olive hatches and things like crane flies are becoming a little more scarce, but small cream-colored mayflies and some larger sulfurs are still coming off in the evenings. Otherwise, now is definitely the time to start looking at terrestrials, so patterns like ants, beetles, crickets are probably your best bet for fish if a bug hatch isn't coming off. Of course, woolly buggers and nymphs can be effective anytime fish aren't looking up, but on the spinning gear side of things, panther martins, tube jigs, and rapalas are fantastic, and it's hard to deny the fact that redworms are a super great bait for trout under a bobber. I guess that pretty much does it for our report. Leave your comments and pictures below. Love to see those coming in. Feel free to call the shop here at 241-4225 if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Happy Father's Day. Take care.